Hi everyone and welcome back to the Hair Loss Show. Russell, good to see you.
Good to see you, Vikram.
Today's episode we thought we'd look at a surgical topic, all right? And look at hair transplants, a big passion of ours. And one of the things that we fundamentally do every day, and really what we aspire to do every day, is to make our patients happy, but in doing so, we want to create a hairline that looks natural. Right. I remember it's interesting. I get a lot of feedback from patients that, when they come up for their 1 year and they go, oh yeah, look, I'm really happy with that. But you know what? No one's really said anything about it. And I on one hand, I go, you know what? That's actually really good, a good thing, because it tells you two things. One, that no one really cares about your hair as much as you do. All right. But secondly, if they haven't picked it, it means that it looks natural. Yeah. And that's great, and certainly, one of the many things that we aspire to. You've taught me so much over the years about how to craft that and how to do that. But on the flip side of that is that with the booming popularity of hair transplant procedures across the world, we are also seeing some substandard or subpar work.
I think the big issue here is that I've always tried to emphasize to patients that the goal of surgery is to make you look less bald, not to make you look not bald or not have any hairline recession, for example. And remembering that whatever hairline is put into place is your hairline for life.
Yes.
And so it should look appropriate at any age. And I think that when we talk about the biggest problem that we see, that you and I are seeing constantly now with the fake, results or the bad-looking hair transplants, is that the clinic has not operated on that principle. They've gone with the idea that whatever the patient wants, the patient gets, or they have a template that they give to everybody.
Yes.
Right? Everybody gets the same thing. So, for example, the first thing that happens, it's very interesting, I find in the consultation, is I ask the patient to show me where they want the hairline to be, and they always go for a feminine hairline.
That's right. They will bring the line down.
Always a female hairline. I said, well, I didn't understand that you wanted a feminine hairline. What do you mean? Well, you've just drawn me a feminine hairline.
Yeah.
So they're so unhappy about the recession that they want it eliminated completely. And it's like, so there's a number one mistake, is the rounding in the corners. And we see that in some of these clinics, right? That it's too low in the middle, so it sort of compresses the forehead and sits like a lid, and it's too square across here, and then it rounds into the corner, and it just immediately draws your eye to it.
Yeah.
And that's the clue, right? If it immediately draws your eye to it, it isn't good, right? Because when patients tell me, like you said, nobody noticed, I take that as a big tick.
Yeah, absolutely.
That we've kept them to be that person, and because it's a subtle change that happens over time, it's not like they walk in at 8 o'clock with one, look and walk out looking like Elvis, 6 hours later, right, which would bring everybody, to the table to know something's going on. It's a gradual, subtle change, and if it suits them. So that's the number one element we find, I think, is that you've got to be conservative in your hairline plan, and I'm talking about from the patient's perspective, not just from the doctor's perspective, because you can ask for too much and live to regret it. And that's what we're seeing now with people coming and asking me to take grafts out in the corners because it just looks wrong.
Yes.
So that's the number one problem, is the placement of the hairline. Number two problem is whether they took enough care with what grafts they put where. So we're talking about direction, which is often wrong. We talk about whether the 3 hair grafts are sitting right at the hairline instead of the 1 hair graft. So it just looks pluggy because it shouldn't.
Yes.
It shouldn't look pluggy. We're only using 1, 2, 3 hairs at a time. It shouldn't look pluggy. You've got to get that blend in, where you start with the 1s and the 2s and the 3s in.
Yes.
And that's what makes it look natural. So that's the big issue, I suppose, with this fake hair transplant, is how poorly the hairlines have been designed. The number 2 issue with transplants is the guy that had the transplant and he either refused treatment or lapsed off his treatment, and now he's balded away from his grafts, and now it looks fake, right? Because it's just not right.
Yeah.
And I warn this to the patients. I say, you've got to remember once we operate on you, any further hair loss is likely to look wrong. It's not a natural pattern anymore, and you have to fill it in. If you don't fill it in, it's going to look fake. It's going to look wrong. And this is the commitment you need to make if you want to go down that path. I know that everybody who in today's society wants the response, wants the answer, and wants it to happen yesterday, right? They want success and they want it yesterday. And they come in and say, I only want to have one operation in my life, and I just want to be done and don't have to think about it for the rest of my life. Yeah. Going, well, that just doesn't exist, right? This is a progressive condition that you're going to have to fight. If you really want to operate, you better be prepared to fight to keep your hair, because otherwise you're going to see us a lot more often with a lot more operations until you run out of hair to move. What do you mean? It doesn't grow back here? No, it doesn't grow back here. The balder you are, the less we've got to play with, the harder it's going to be to play this game.
Yeah. I think one of the challenges is that sometimes the people that stand up and shout the loudest are the ones that are heard the most.
Yes.
And you get these people who come back with these sort of, flat hairlines with, right angles in the corner going, look how amazing this is. Yeah. And everyone else will go, yep, that's what I want. And it's fighting against that is the challenge. On the flip side, I also get patients that come in, and you do as well, going, well, tell me what my hairline, tell me what the best hairline is. And I always say, look, there is no such thing as the best hairline. There's no correct hairline. We have to talk about what is the most appropriate hairline for you, what you want, what fits within the realms of normality, and being age appropriate both now and in the future. And there's
the one key issue being, remember that everything on the face works on curves.
Yes.
Everything, right? Yeah. Your eyebrows, your wrinkles, everything works on curves, right? Yeah. So if you put something straight in there, it immediately draws your eye to it. Yeah. If it's linear, it draws your eye to it. It's got to have curves. And the
same is true with the hairline, even if the hairline is curved. If it's a smooth curve, you spot it a mile away.
That's right.
And the issue with that is that, again, and this is more of a psychological thing than anything else, they will come out of that procedure once it's grown a year going, look at this super cut hairline that is awesome, and
I look like I'm 16 again.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, that was not what you look like at 16 for a start, and it's not going to look good.
So I think it is about I think you're right. It's about design and making sure that we understand the metrics within that design process, that it's age appropriate for that individual, and for now and in the future. Managing both the back and the front, so you're not trying to do
and of course the biggest patient problem we have is the young man with the crown balding as well as the hairline, right? Because it takes a massive amount of grafts because they want to go back to being 16. It takes a massive amount of grafts, which means there's not much donor to play with, and here they are 25, 26, 27 years of age, using up 70 or 80% of their donor area in one operation and leaving us with very little to go through somewhere in future. And so this becomes a real problem, trying to slow them down and say, well, okay, we've got to take a long-term view here. Yeah. Right? And medication doesn't change the plan, because there's no guarantee, A, that you're going to take the medication, and B, there's no guarantee it's going to work 100% effectively for the next 20 years anyway. Yeah. So, we have to think about, what is our exit strategy here? How do we make this the least damage to you in future if we can't control the process?
So I think looking at design, both from a design at a macro level and also micro level, like you said, direction. If you're trying to pummel through a massive number of 3, 4, 5,000 grafts in a single session, then probably
care and attention to detail is not exactly going to be
high on your priority, is it?
Right.
So you're going to get wrong angles of hairs, and an absolute nightmare to correct later on.
Oh yes, once you've got those grafts in there, there's scarring under the skin which changes the hair direction, and the clusters look differently. When you try and take them out, you get some of them, you don't get all of them, and then you end up with electrolysis or having another crack at it. The repair work is tricky, and guess what? We're seeing more and more of it, and that's unfortunate that we have this situation around the world where there's going to be more. There's so many people entering the field without actually having learnt to do hairlines properly. Yeah. They learnt to do the harvest, they didn't work out how important it was to be able to design the hairline, and that's going to be a cross for us to bear for a long while.
Absolutely. So I think all these things is really important to consider, and so make sure that if you're having a hair transplant procedure, make sure you're involved in that. You ask those questions, and that you're not asking for something too drastic, that it fits for you, and that who's performing that is making those decisions and is thinking about that, of course, at the beginning and during the procedure as well, in order that you can get the best outcome possible. You agree?
I agree.
Fantastic. Well, hope you found that useful. Thanks again for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you on the next episode.
Cheers.